From the nation's capital, the Conservative Caucus presents Conservative Roundtable, an in-depth look at today's most important issues.
Welcome to Conservative Roundtable. I'm Howard Phillips, chairman of the Conservative Caucus, which sponsors these broadcasts. We're delighted to have as our guest today a man who will be playing an important part in the politics of America in the years to come. His name is John Tate. John is a man of considerable experience, and he's now the president of the Campaign for Liberty, an organization which has inherited many dimensions of the Ron Paul for President campaign. And let me begin, John, by thanking you for giving me the opportunity to speak at the Rally for the Republic in Minneapolis during the Republican National Convention. And I know the Campaign for Liberty is an outgrowth of that to some degree. But tell me your history with Ron Paul. Tell me what Ron Paul's plans are. Can we count on him to run again for president?
I don't know if you can count on that. As you know, he was a reluctant candidate to begin with. He's one of those true libertarian constitutionalist conservatives. He's not in this for personal power or for personal gain, but there are a lot of people out there urging him to make another run. We haven't actually discussed that at this point. His main goal right now is to help us get the Campaign for Liberty up and running and get it started. You're right. This is really an outgrowth of the Rally for the Republic, which we saw 12,000 people fill the Target Center.
And they paid $17.76 each.
That's right, exactly. To hear you and Ron and others speak, and thank you for being there. It was a pleasure having you.
One thing I discovered is that it's very easy to get a standing ovation at a Ron Paul rally as long as you say three magic words, and the Fed.
Yes.
Everyone, including me, who used that language, got a rising ovation.
Absolutely. You know, it was a very exciting and interesting rally, and as you know, we had speakers from all kinds of various segments of the conservative movement, and there were, you know, everyone from Jesse Ventura to Grover Norquist. And
I had quite a time chatting with Jesse Ventura.
Oh,
what a character he is.
Yes.
But you know what?
When he wasn't sleeping on the couch.
One of the thrills that my wife and I had at the meeting was the opportunity to visit with Barry Goldwater Jr. and his wife Sylvia. Barry is the spitting image of his late father, Senator Goldwater. His wife Sylvia is just a wonderful woman. We really enjoyed visiting with her. And of course, Barry was one of Ron's friends in Congress. And he introduced Ron at the rally and did a terrific job.
Did a great job. And he was out there on the campaign trail for Ron. I actually ran into him a few times. I was in Iowa and Kansas and a couple other places, and Barry was there as a surrogate speaker. Did a great job, and we're still in touch every now and then. But yeah, it's...
Well, he told me he's really not interested in politics. He's interested in making money, which apparently he does very successfully.
He does, yeah. He has a consulting firm, I know, and he does a few other things. So he's doing well.
Well, how did you hook up with Ron? I know you've got all kinds of experience. You were with the National Right to Work Committee.
Right.
You were with the U.S. Defense Committee.
Right. Long time ago.
And a long time ago. Yeah. You were involved in many campaigns. You were an activist in the Republican Party. When did you first meet Ron Paul, and how did you develop a professional relationship?
I first met Ron back in 1988 when he was actually was at the Republican National Convention in New Orleans, and he was there. I was with Young Americans for Freedom at the time, and Tom Lizardo and I met Ron
Tom
there.
Is now his chief of staff.
Right, Ron's chief of staff. We met Ron there and briefly worked on his campaign for president in 1988. And through the years, I kept in touch with Ron through Tom, mainly. Congressman Paul was a signer for us at National Right to Work, and I've worked with him on a number of issues through the years. But I stayed really in close contact through Tom Lizardo. And back in, I guess, August of last year, Tom contacted me and asked if I'd be interested in talking to Dr. Paul about working on the presidential campaign. And I did that briefly from September through about March, and got to know Dr. Paul very well, spent a lot of time with him, traveling around the country. And then in August, he called me again, and I had just left the Leadership Institute to start a consulting firm, and actually had just signed up 7 clients. And
really?
And yes, and Ron called and said, "Hey, would you help out with this rally?" And I agreed to do it, and here I am.
You did a great job. The rally was an extraordinary success. I know how difficult it is to put those things together, and it was done on very short notice.
Oh, yes. Everything was done. You know, one of the problems I have now with the current staff at Campaign for Liberty is everyone is still in campaign mode. They think it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's how it was for the rally. I have to say, most of the technical end of it was done by other people. We had a lot of good staff involved in that, and it was amazing to me being backstage and seeing all the things that were going on and going wrong as the day progressed, and to still have it come off like it did was just
no
tremendous.
one watching it would have regarded it as anything but a success.
I think it was. I mean, again, most of the things you see go wrong backstage, no one ever knows about. But it's amazing the work that goes into an event like that. I'm glad I was involved in it. I do not look forward to putting anything on like that as big for a long time.
Well, I know that Dr. Paul, whom I've been privileged to know since he first came to Congress, was a very reluctant candidate. He's a very humble man. He's a very modest man. He's not a man consumed by ambition. His only ambition is to help educate people in the real meaning of constitutional government.
Right.
And one of the reasons I think he's so successful is that he casts votes that, for most politicians, would be death knells. They would be career enders. But every time he casts a difficult vote, he explains it.
Right.
He puts out a statement explaining it. And when people see those statements, it's hard to dismiss him as a mindless ideologue. He's a guy who's thought these things through and explains them extremely well.
Right. And the other thing that I've always admired about him is he's very consistent in his thought process and his votes. One of the few on Capitol Hill that is consistent and not hypocritical. He doesn't play the, I'll trade this in my district for this in your district. He doesn't play that game.
Now, one of the things I appreciate is that he was one of the initial sponsors of House Concurrent Resolution 40, opposing the North American Union.
Yes.
And I've been very disappointed that Virgil Goode, who is the principal sponsor, has apparently been defeated free election. My prayer is that Dr. Paul will play a leading role once again in our efforts to block the North American Union.
Oh, I'm sure he will. That's something I know that he and his staff on the Hill have been working on, is his legislative agenda for the next Congress. And it's something that we at Campaign for Liberty will certainly be working on in our lobbying efforts. So I don't want to speak for him, but I think you can count on him to be there on that.
Tell me more about your hopes for the agenda of the Campaign for Liberty. What do you think would be the best way for your new organization to invest its time and resources?
Well, right now I think that the initial investment is in expanding our membership. We have just over 100,000 members nationwide. A lot of those, of course, did carry over from the campaign. One of the things we're trying to do is develop a mission and a strategy and goals where we can keep as much of this coalition together as possible. And as you know, Ron's supporters came from lots of different aspects of the conservative movement and some outside the conservative movement. And keeping them all together is going to be an interesting and time-consuming project. But what we want to do is focus on issues concerning individual liberty, constitutional government, sound monetary policy, free markets, and a non-interventionist foreign policy.
One of the great things about Ron is that he's rock solid across the board.
Across the board, right.
I mean, he's a strong pro-lifer. He's someone who has been consistent in his opposition to amnesty for illegal aliens.
Right.
He's been consistent in favoring a defense policy which has as its objective the defense of America's population and territory,
right,
and not squandering the resources on meddling in other people's business.
Right.
It's incredible.
Empire building, as he likes to call it, yes.
Well,
exactly.
Before we go to the break, let me just put in a word about you. You've got 5 kids.
Yes, I do.
You're a graduate of the University of Virginia. You and your wife homeschool your children.
Yes.
Have you discussed education policy with Dr. Paul?
Oh, yes. He's actually, Dr. Paul is a huge advocate of homeschooling. In fact, during the campaign, I was surprised. Wherever I went, we would run into probably 10 to 15% of the crowd that showed up would always be homeschoolers. He's been a strong advocate of homeschooling for years, and that's an issue I think we're going to try to push to the forefront, both at the federal level and in the state level.
One of the reasons one can have optimism about America's future is the homeschool movement.
Yes, absolutely.
The government schools have miseducated generations of Americans. They've indoctrinated them to be pro-sexual promiscuity, pro-abortion, pro-sodomy, etc. And homeschooling is a tremendous offset to that. And the kids who are homeschooled generally are well-behaved, well-dressed, knowledgeable in American history.
Yes.
And committed to restoring the kind of America that made this country so great. And there are more and more of them every year. The other good thing is that homeschoolers tend to have large families.
That's right. Exactly.
My oldest boy, Doug's very active in it. He's got 8 children, and hopefully he'll have some more.
As we are told when we show up with our 5 children, you're off to a good start.
That's exactly it. That's a good start.
Exactly.
We have to take a break. Please stay with us. We'll be back with John Tate, who is the president of the Campaign for Liberty. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Congressman Tom Tancredo. You know, I just returned from a hearing on the southern border in a place called Brownsville, Texas. One of the participants in the hearing told us that for them, a border really doesn't exist between the United States and Mexico. Well, unfortunately, a lot of people have that attitude, that there are no such things as borders, that they really don't matter, that they're just lines on a map and nobody should pay attention to them, and that we're all just residents of the North American continent. Well, you know what? That's baloney. It's baloney, but only if you will do something about it to prove to the people of this country, and especially to your elected officials, that you know borders matter, that you know the sovereignty of this country is at risk, and that you will take action to make sure that they understand it. That action is best taken by calling your local talk radio stations, writing letters to the editor, and of course, letting members of Congress know that you know. That's the best thing. They're hoping, as a matter of fact, that no one really picks up on this issue of a North American trade association that essentially eliminates borders. But the fact is it's happening. You can see parts of it all of the time. So it's something that we need to stop. America, and I mean the United States of America, not the continent, but the United States of America is at stake. Do your part.
Here's how you can become a citizen lobbyist and influence how your representatives vote. Write a letter to your congressmen and senators. Speak out on a call-in talk radio program. Write a letter to the editor of your local newspaper and call the Conservative Caucus for more information at 703-938-9626.
Welcome back. I'm Howard Phillips, chairman of the Conservative Caucus. Our guest for this broadcast of Conservative Roundtable is John Tate, president of the Campaign for Liberty. John, do you interact at all with Congressman Paul on his committee work in Congress? And have you discussed with him his thoughts about the recent economic calamities we're facing in America?
I've talked a lot with him about the recent economic calamities, and actually we have fun pulling some of his speeches from the campaign, a year ago, warning about what was coming. As you well know, a lot of the other presidential candidates tended to laugh at him at the time, and we like saying Ron Paul was right. In fact, we talked tonight about the Fed's recent decision to lower the interest rate to 0. His view and my view is, they've been trying that for months and years, and we keep getting worse off and worse off. And obviously, the answer is not to let the Fed meddle in the market, but to use our catchphrase, to end the Fed, to get them out of the market.
Well, the dollar today is worth 4 cents compared to the 100-cent dollar in 1913,
right,
the year the Fed was created.
Right.
What the Fed has done is diminish the value of our savings and our earnings. It's official robbery.
Oh, yes.
And people don't understand why it is that every year, until the recent deflation, prices would go up, but the standard of living wouldn't go up with it. And look at the price of automobiles. My wife and I were married in 1964, and we decided to buy a new Plymouth Valiant. And after much hard bargaining, we bought one for $1,921.75 or something like that. The same car today would cost in the mid-20,000s. Right.
Yeah. With nothing in it.
Just wouldn't be as good a car. And that's because of the Fed.
Right.
It's because of the Fed.
Absolutely.
That is the real taxation. People talk about tax cuts, but the tax hikes are inflation hikes.
Right. Exactly.
How did you develop your personal economic understanding? I see you're wearing an Adam Smith necktie. Did you acquire your knowledge by reading Wealth of Nations?
Wealth of Nations and other books, and a lot of it is actually just through being out there in the world and watching my money get stolen from me year after year, and more of it. You looked at it, and even when taxes supposedly were going down, somehow more and more kept coming out for the very reasons you're talking about. And just watching how what we do in this country and the way the government has manipulated the free market system hasn't worked. It's getting worse and worse.
In your homeschool program for your 5 children, what books do you call on them to read? What are you having your kids read?
Right now they're all reading a lot of history, a lot of the founders. I'm obviously a University of Virginia grad. They read a lot of Jefferson. Actually, my personal favorite is Madison, who was sort of the political mind behind Jefferson's theories. I consider him sort of the activist. He got it done. But a lot of history, a lot of economics. My daughter is probably the reader of all of my children, and her idea of a nice Friday night is to sit at home and listen to Beethoven and read Adam Smith or read. She's currently working on a volume of biography of Jefferson. So I focus heavily on the history of this nation and world history and philosophy.
What are the most important books that you personally have ever read?
Oh my gosh.
Let me tell you a quick story. In 1968, I managed Dick Schweiker's campaign for the U.S. Senate in Pennsylvania. And during lunch hour, as I normally did, I walked down Main Street thinking, and I walked past a bookstore and looked in the window, and then a fellow came out and said, young man, come with me. And he said, I want you to read these books. And I said, sir, I have a young family. I don't have a lot of money. I can't afford these books. He said, they're a gift from me to you. And he gave me about 20 books. And he said, remember this, young man. You're the same person today that you will be 5 years from now, except for the people you meet and the books you read.
Right.
And his name was Charles Tremendous Jones. He died recently. Great man, a very successful businessman, very strong Christian. I saw that he was speaking to the Christian Businessmen's Association in D.C. several years ago, so I took my youngest son with me to meet him. And I said, Mr. Jones, I'm sure you don't remember me, but you had a tremendous impact on me with those wonderful books you presented to me, and every one of which I read. And he said, well, Howard, here's a list of the 100 most important books I've ever read. Now you give me your list, which I ultimately did. But he was a tremendous guy, had a big influence on me, and we are greatly influenced by the books that we read.
Actually, two of my favorite that probably, and this will sound strange maybe, but two that probably had the most impact on me were the Communist Manifesto.
You know, I just read it last week.
Oh, did you?
I reread it.
Read it in college.
For a speech, and it's amazing how many things they have succeeded in doing.
Yes.
Compulsory government education for kids, central bank, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep. And, oh, absolutely. And the second one is one of my favorites, and I think it should be required reading for all conservative activists, is Rules for Radicals.
Saul
Alinsky, yes.
Let me tell you, when I was director of the U.S. Office of Economic Opportunity, I monitored what Mr. Alinsky was up to. And, of course, both Barack Obama and Hillary Rodham Clinton are acolytes, are students.
Yep.
To whom did Saul Alinsky dedicate Rules for Radicals?
Oh, boy.
He dedicated it to Lucifer.
Lucifer, that's right.
He dedicated the book to Satan.
Absolutely.
He said Satan was the first real radical and successful radical, and he's the trainer of Barack Obama and Hillary Rodham Clinton. We have to take a break shortly.
Okay.
But let me just say that the book that had the biggest influence on me, I read it when I was 11 years old, was The Coming Caesars in America, by Amaury de Riencourt, a Frenchman, talked about what was happening in America that paralleled the fall of the Roman Republic.
Right.
And that just had a powerful impact on me. I was also greatly influenced by writings of a liberal, Aldous Huxley. Brave New World, Anna Kay, many other. I read all of the Huxley books, and of course, Eric Blair, otherwise known as George Orwell, Animal Farm, and 1984. Yep. But the books I read in those days had a profound impact in motivating me to do things. We have to take a break. We'll be back with some final words from John Tate, if I let him get a word in edgewise, following these messages. There are many conservative organizations, but the Conservative Caucus is unique in that our standard for evaluating public policy is the Constitution of the United States. Our goal is to advocate policies which conform to what the Constitution stipulates and to oppose those which undermine the Constitution. It's clear that the federal government has only those powers which are provided in the Constitution, which were initially delegated by the states to the federal government, or which were subsequently added by amendment. If we adhered to that principle, your taxes would be lower and your liberties would be more secure.
The Conservative Caucus, www.conservativeusa.org or 703-938-9626.
Hi, I'm United States Representative Thaddeus McCotter from Michigan's 11th Congressional District. As we enter a new millennium of hope and peril, with so many problems besetting our country and yet so many opportunities before us, it is oftentimes tempting to think that your voice doesn't matter. What can one person do to make a difference in the life of their community and their country? Well, the first thing you can do is to contact your legislator. You are one of the sovereign citizens of the United States. You elect your servants to work for you in Congress. Let them know what you think. Send them a letter, send them an email, call them on the phone. Your voice matters. Because if you don't raise your voice in the interest of our free republic, who will?
Welcome back. I'm Howard Phillips, chairman of the Conservative Caucus, which sponsors Conservative Roundtable. If you are interested in the kinds of issues we discuss on Conservative Roundtable, I hope you'll take the time to check out our website, www.conservativeusa.org. Or you can fax us your name and address at 281-4108. Without any cost or obligation, we'll send you information on many of the issues we discussed. John Tate, it's been a real privilege having you with us. We're delighted that Ron Paul has entrusted you with the destiny of his post-campaign activities and the Campaign for Liberty. Why don't you take the minute or two left to us to, first of all, tell people how they can get in touch with you.
Sure.
And second, to give us some thought about your vision for the future.
Okay. Sure. Well, first of all, people can contact us at www.campaignforliberty.com or call us at 703-347-6886. We are very heavily right now identified with email and the internet, something that I'm just old enough to, this is all new to me. My kids show me all of this, but as you saw from the campaign, a lot of the contributions that Ron received during the campaign came from the internet. We're still very internet heavy, but my goals for the organization are to try to expand it out from that, to be more than a website. We want to identify like-minded people around the country, recruit them, train them, get them involved at the precinct level. This is going to be a little different kind of 501c4 lobbying organization. We have, one of the things we want to do is we have a precinct leader program that we've put in place where we want to identify, recruit, and train up to 20,000 precinct leaders by the end of next year.
John, we're going to have to stop you there, although we'd love to hear more. Thanks so much for joining us on Conservative Roundtable. And John Tate, I'm delighted
that you
are where you are, and I pray that God will favor your labors.
Thank you.
Don't be a
Thanks for
stranger.
having me.
See you at the next program.